Fantastic. So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this platform on the Impact. It's always incredible for me to be here to share whatever we have to share with you. So today I'm super excited to have one of my most, I don't know how to actually describe my guests who I have on the show today with you. But it's a very big pleasure for me to have Vanessa J. Patrick here with me, joining on this platform to have an interesting conversation about the power of self-love. And if you're joining us for the very first time, Vanessa is a personal coach and transformation coach as well. And she's a person in charge of limited potential. So I believe she's one of the most incredible people that have the opportunity to come across on this platform. Vanessa, you remember the very first, and I think the last conversation we have on this platform was in 2020 when we talk about the power of discovering your purpose.
Yep.
I don't know if you can still remember that, right?
Yes.
And which happened to, I think which happened to be, it was on June 14, happened to be your birthday, So the most interesting thing to me today as well, beside sharing this conversation with you, is like, today is actually my birthday as well. The last time we had this conversation was your birthday, and today we're talking again. It's actually my birthday. This is kind of so interesting to me as a person. As I'm kind of like, man, I really don't know how to really describe this kind of energy between it, but I just want to appreciate you, for who you have always been and what you do, to help other people become better of themselves. So if you're joining me here today, I just want to appreciate you. And if you have the opportunity to pass this message across to whoever can benefit from this privilege and opportunity, and that I will really appreciate. So today we'll be talking about the power of self-love.
Yeah, well, happy birthday, Eddie. Like, that's awesome. And there's got to be something in it that we want to do these sort of chats on our birthdays,
I think
I remember when we did our first one of these on my birthday, and it was super early in the morning, which I know it's super early in the morning for you right now.
Absolutely.
Better way to start my birthday than, talking about the stuff that matters, empowerment, and getting to have like exciting conversations that may impact and have the potential of impacting others. So thanks for showing up and being a gift on your birthday.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity. I know you're a very busy person. You have so much on your table. I really want to appreciate you for taking your time to be here with me, to share your love and your knowledge and wisdom to help other people become better of themselves. So I just want us to dive in straightly into the conversation. Kind of realize sometimes most of us, in the process of trying to love in ourselves, we end up endangering ourselves. I told someone some time ago, it's like, man, most of the mistakes we make in parenting, they are not actually from bad intention, but rather they come from good intention. In the process of trying to act in the right way, we end up doing it wrongly.
Yes.
So this is something I've discovered in the process of we trying to love ourselves, we end up jeopardizing our own life. I remember when I used to believe like enjoying myself was like drinking the most expensive vodka or whatever. I put it on myself. Like, man, yes, man, I have worked hard so much, then I want to treat myself nicely, then I have to drink so much alcohol, and which, you know what I mean, right? So, self-love is sometimes in the process of trying to do it rightly, a lot of us end up going the wrong way. You want to stay off the drama, we go into isolation. We want to, like, somebody do something we don't like, then we want to keep malice and whole resentment, which is also not kind of headed to our own well-being. I want to ask, in your own terms, Vanessa,
Yeah.
How do you define self-love?
Well, my definition has changed, and it's even changed since our last conversation. And I was just mentioning to you before we hit record and got live today, about the journey I've been on since August last year, where I found myself stepping away from all the things I was doing, which I believed were self-love, right? And like you were just mentioning, they were ending up actually being counterproductive. That all my best intentions, not so much working. So my new definition of self-love based on this journey is actually owning and facing my shadow self, and incorporating all the parts and the pieces of me that my past self thought to disidentify with, right? So my past self-love attempts with the best intentions were, oh, I'm all of these great things, these positive aspects. I'm going to be a courageous, benevolent leader and all of these great things. But what was happening was I was only meeting half of the criteria of self-love, finding and acknowledging and focusing on building up the best positive aspects in me. But what happens is we tend to have this counterproductive approach to actually truly loving and being all of who we are when we disown all of the aspects that we think are bad, right? And what happens is it comes out sideways. So we expect ourselves to be absolutely and utterly perfect, and we judge others for not being all of the best things, right? And so whatever we can't own within ourselves, we externalize and project onto others. And basically, what I've been on the process to do, and it's actually transformed to the work that I do with all of my clients now, it's no longer just focused on highlighting the best and our highest potential and moving towards that. It's absolutely that, but also self-love and actually living to your truest potential in the most freeing and liberating and fulfilling way is actually confronting your shadow. That means confronting all the dark stuff that you shove down, denying is actually a part of you. Because in each and every one of us, there is a shadow self. There is a part of us that throughout time, since being a child, we've learned, oh no, that's not good. That's not good to do that or be like that. And we've denied those aspects of ourselves. And what happens in our deep subconscious is there's this terribly fearful, lonely, cut off, isolated, terrified part of ourselves that only comes out when we're reactive or triggered to something in our external environment. That creates all our limitation and, creates our problems despite our best intentions. And that part of us actually needs our unconditional love. It needs our highest self to come in and unconditionally love all of those aspects that have been denied based on what we've seen in our external environment that told us who we need to be a lovable human being. But what we've done in the process is we've stopped loving all of us. We only love certain aspects of ourselves, and we deny whatever we deny denies us of the fullness of love, basically, within ourselves and within all of our external relationships. So self-love has now become the owning and the acknowledgement and the integration of the whole spectrum of all of that which we are as human beings unconditionally, so that we can free ourselves from a limiting perfect ideal that we think we need to be, and therefore all of the judgments that we project onto others and all of the limitations that we are run by when we don't own all of who we are, which is easier said than done. But that's my new definition.
That's really incredible, Vanisha.
Mm.
Absolutely incredible. I've also come to realize, like, man, like I said before, in the process of most of us trying to love ourselves, we end up doing it the wrong way. Your unboxing, I just want to ask, what are some of the mistakes you've seen people, most of your clients or people you've come across, what are some of the mistakes you see like most people making in
Yeah,
the process of trying to love themselves,
100%.
that you
Yeah.
believe that you can encourage or you can advise on? What are some of the mistakes you see people in the act, in the process of trying to love themselves, they end up going the wrong way? What are some of these mistakes you have noticed in most of the people you work with and you believe that needs to be corrected?
Amazing question. And it's got a really clear answer. So the answer is to stop living to the expectations of others, because, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. So as we grow up, we, between the ages of 0 to 7, we're very shaped by our caregivers and their expectations and their value system. And so what happens is we leave our core selves and we start to mold ourselves based on what we're hearing will get us the love, acceptance, approval, winning in the eyes of others. And we start to live for the eyes of others. And so we believe that that's self-love. We believe that being our best is, okay, I'm going to become the best. My path was, I'm going to become a lawyer. I am the opposite to being a lawyer. I want to actually bring people together and find a win-win, and, and come to understanding and deeper connection and intimacy, not have a winner and a loser and, separate and divide and try and analyze and dissect and, it's the opposite, right? But in my upbringing, it was what I perceived would be most loving. I will be most loved in my family if I'm a successful lawyer, right? And what happened was, with those best intentions, trying to live to be my absolute best, it got me to a place of absolute defeatism, right? Like in the fetal position on the couch, physically impacted, not being able to move forward. And so I see this all the time, with the people that come to me predominantly for relationship challenges, but also in terms of just not feeling like they know who they are, what they want, and having the courage to go after it and create the life that they want on their terms. We're also blinded by this living to the expectations of others. And a great book for anybody who feels like that might be ringing true for them, there's a great book by a woman by the name of Bronnie Ware. It's The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the short synopsis is that she was a palliative care nurse who got to interview people on their deathbed, and she asked them all, hundreds and hundreds of people on their deathbed, what's your number one regret? And she was able to tally it up to these top 5 regrets. And the number one regret was, I wish I had have had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one I thought was expected of me. Okay. And so that guides my whole life. Like, that just gave me shivers over my body, even though I've recited that, regret many, many times over these last few years. But it's still so true and poignant for me that, wow, like the last thing I want to ever do in my life is get to the end and finally realize, oh my God, I've been deceiving myself. I thought I was living a life that was true to me. I thought I was doing the most I could to love myself and be my best. But it's come to me now that that wasn't my choice. I was becoming something based on who I thought I needed to be, based on the expectations or my perception of the expectations from others. So this is not just in my work and my experience and in my own personal life, but this is across the board in humanity. Living to the expectations of others is robbing you of the opportunity to not only love yourself wholeheartedly, but live as you completely. So that's how I'd answer that one. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely incredible, Vanessa.
Mm,
There's something there's love about you. There is a way you always coin your conversation in a way like there is no way anybody will listening to you and
mhm.
will not be blessed with your conversation. I really, really appreciate your wisdom and the knowledge you put together to pass your message across. So I want also have another question here that I really want to ask is, sometimes they're talking about seeking people's approval. I have a friend sometimes who went for a concert. She was a dancer, and after her performance, a lot of people came to her, to appreciate her, to applaud for her. You did very well, And there was also one person who came to her and said, "Man, whoa, that was really horrible. Why would you go there to just embarrass yourself in such a way?" You couldn't believe me. This one person commentary actually really like destroy the entire applaud that she have gotten from the entire crowd because of this very person who make this negative commentary. Sometimes a lot of people need people's opinion and actually to really be themselves, to feel that they're really worthy of themselves. I don't know if you have any way of addressing this. What will you say about people who seek other people's opinion before they can actually really see value in themselves?
Well, Eddie, you're actually speaking directly to a huge pattern of my own. This has been one of the reasons why I've had to take this last year and really take more of a backseat behind the scenes kind of way of running my business, because some of us are very much so wired towards that. And I won't go down the path of personality psychology today, but that's a big piece of the work that I do. And I could answer that question based on the individual and how they're cognitively wired. But as a general rule, you just need to look at how all human beings' brains are wired. We're wired for survival. And there's been a lot of work done around, in relationship work, there's the Gottman Institute, who actually teach for every one negative piece of criticism or reflection that you want to give to somebody to support them potentially, you need to give 5 positives in order for them to actually hear the negative and take it on board in a constructive way, right? Otherwise, they're going to hyper focus on it and they're going to not even hear anything positive coming their way, right? So we have to be able to work with our system and hack it. One of my idols in the world and somebody that I really admire is actually Joe Rogan. And he runs, the #1 podcast in the world, right? Like people want to listen to it. He gets to interview incredible minds. And I really like who he is as a person. And one of the things he totally reiterates time and time again to anybody who puts themselves out there in any capacity, like your friend who's the dancer, or, even you and I doing the work that we do and putting ourselves out there publicly, is don't read the comments. Don't get advice from just anyone, right? Like you have to vet where you get your feedback from. And the reason why you have to stand guard at the entrance of your mind with that, right, is because we're just naturally wired to pick up on the negatives because it's connected to our survival. Right. So instead of trying to be the person who remains completely unaffected by any negative criticism, which is kind of impossible, right? Like you can do it for so long, right? But even the best of us are going to feel something, it's like, let me understand the system I'm working with and let me mitigate against that. Let me get some trusted advisors so that I can remain aware and get reflections and see how I'm coming across and whether that's aligned with how I do want to be received. But let's not just make that any old person down the street, right? Or in the concert hall for your friend. Who are they? Like, let's be more discerning about where we get that reflection, and also be compassionate to ourselves that we're wired for survival, and any negative comment is we're relational creatures. So that could mean that we're ostracized from the group, we're no longer able to be in this world in a meaningful way. So just be kind and compassionate and more wisely discerning, and just don't listen to everybody. Yeah.
That's really incredible, Vanessa. Thank you so much for such a for such a way of trying to like getting that message across to most of all that really needed. I also have another question here. How does self-love foster a sense of self-worth to us as a person?
So how does self-love,
Yeah, foster self-worth.
how
How
does
does self-love encourage self-worth? Because most of
self-worth?
us, we are
Yes.
self-worthy,
Yeah.
but not letting ourselves really redirect our lenses to the negative part of us instead of seeing the best part of us. So how does self-love help us to focus on our self-worth?
Yes, great question. So the way I see the two being slightly different is that our self-worth determines the self-love, right? So self-love is more of how are we actioning this? Love is a doing word, right? Love is a verb, as they say. So self-love is the actions that we take or don't take, right? That are loving, right? That we perceive to be loving. But that is going to be informed by the level of self-worth we have. And the way I look at that is this is a really key problem for all of us as human beings, is that we mistake the difference between having self-esteem and being self-confident, right? So we think that those are the same thing. Like a lot of times, for us as coaches, we might get people coming to us who are like, I want to feel more confidence, right? I want to be more confident in my life. But what happens is confidence comes from being competent at doing things, right? Learning skills that builds your confidence. But self-esteem, which is very similar to self-worth, right? It's placing a value on you, your inherent value as a human being is very different. We'll either have low self-esteem or self-worth or higher self-esteem and self-worth. There is a healthy version of looking at that, and it's very different and distinct to self-confidence. Self-worth or self-esteem has nothing to do with what you do or don't do. It is really about owning your inherent value as a human being, no different to anybody else, in complete equality, no matter what you've done or not done. As a life form in this earth, on this earth, we're all equal, right? And people don't get that. That is the hardest thing for everybody to get. But in actual fact, it's like the linchpin of everything that you choose to do in your life. To the degree you can own equally your value, your inherent value as a human being, equal to all others, will determine how you show up in the world. And you need to make sure that you are distinguishing that differently from self-confidence, which is your skill set, your competencies. That has no bearing on your value as a human being. But that self-worth and self-esteem, if we don't have that, and we're just basing our self-love actions based on how competent we are. Oh, wow, I got to have this amazing interview with Eddy Mufy today, right? Okay, pat on the back, you deserve some self-love. No, I deserve self-love no matter what. If I want to not show up in the world, I deserve just as much self-love because I esteem myself, I know my worth, and it's of no determining factors based on what I show up and do or don't do. It's because I'm a living being on this planet. And that's the piece that most of us just don't do because we're not taught that. We're taught to compete against each other. We're taught to be better than others. We're taught that based on our income, that determines our wealth, based on our beauty, based on our intelligence, based on whatever it is for the individual. But the truth is, if you want to be able to truly love yourself and take those actions from a great centered place, you have to know that you are valuable and worthy for being a living being, and you're no better or worse than any other living being on the planet.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Vanessa. This beautiful rest. I also come to realize, a lot of us, we bury our gifts and potentials and in something I could describe a kind of graveyard of not feeling good enough. We believe we're not good enough, we're not going to be accepted. And this kind of help us to bury who we are, our authenticity, in a graveyard of not living our dream as a person. But what are some of the strategic steps you believe anyone who is dealing with this struggle can take to bring their self back to life, or to be able to live their full potential as a person?
Great question again. But, at the end of the day, it comes back to doing the inner work, right? Because we get caught up in that external comparison, not good enough. Oh, they're better than us, or we want some more of what they've got, or whatever. And all of that by externalizing, by always focusing on the external world and going to sleep to our true inner core. Each of us has a soul, right? We each have this deep inner world that is connected divinely to everything, right? No matter what your religious or spiritual beliefs are, if you take the time to go within, what happened for me back in August when I did my very first Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreat, where before that, I dabbled with meditation here and there and done a bit and whatever, and maybe just some guided meditation, and found it kind of hard and challenging, but, I knew it was good for me. So I wanted to show up and practice. And I threw myself in the deep end with a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which basically, for those of your audience who might not be familiar, it's basically sitting with yourself in silence for 10 hours a day in your own discomfort on a mat. You're uncomfortable, you're dealing with your physical pain, and you're not talking or communicating in any way with anybody else. Your whole focus for 10 solid days, for 10 hours a day, is to sit with yourself through it all, through the reality of the present moment in the framework of your physical body. And what happened for me was I went from all this gross reality, like all these people and things in our external world that we're trying to accomplish and do things. And my awareness of reality got subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler. And it woke up this whole other world within me that made me realize, wow, how we can look at a beautiful sunset or sunrise and be mesmerized, or we can, just look at a mountain and just be like, wow, or a beautiful flower, and I realized we all have that incredibleness within us right here, right now. We're all connected to it. We are an incredible universe within our own system, connected to it all, right? And when I woke up to this, I don't know how esoteric we want to go here, but, there was an energetic awareness that became available to me through that process, through the intensity of the environment. And I started to witness everything that was going on inside of my own system that I wasn't guiding, I wasn't controlling, that I was just a presence to, I was just a witness to. And I could wake up my sense of awe to my own inner physical system and realize that that was present in you, Eddy, in everybody that we get to connect with. I know you have children, so you get to see them grow, and just it's a mesmerizing experience. And I realized that the way we could look at a sunset, we could look at ourselves, we could look at each other, and we could just be in awe of the incredibleness of this living system within, and from that place, have a heightened sense of value on life itself. Because if we can find our sense of awe in the things around us, we can awaken them within us. And when we find that connection point to, wow, I am this living, breathing organism that I have no control over doing all of these things and making my heart beat and making myself breathe. I can try and manipulate it, but there's an intelligence in this system that you have, that we all have, that's in everything, that's growing, that's around us. It's, it's waking up to that allows us to have the same level of awe that we would in the magnificence of nature within our own systems. And that, I believe, is the the point we actually need to get to so that we can exit this externalized, not good enough comparison kind of mode, which is just a complete fallacy. It's the way our society is geared towards, right? And we're rewarded or, you know, or not based on that. But when we can awaken to the magnificence within us in connection to the all, we can start to treat ourselves with the sort of value that we are all worthy of, as just being a part of this living system, which is so much, it trumps any sort of hierarchy or good enough, not good enough kind of way of being in the world. So it's a much more sustainable, healthy, fulfilling, and freeing place to live from when we can take the responsibility to go within and find that universe within.
Wow, this is absolutely incredible, Vanessa. You know, I also want to like you know, talk about you know, you just made a mention of comparison. You know, sometimes a lot of us lose sense of our work by trying to compare who we are to someone else. You know, sometimes I do describe it to people like I feel like comparing yourself to other people is one of the biggest disrespects you can ever give to yourself as a person, because we are all authentic in our own ways as individual. You know, and this has become a lot of struggle that most of us go through because we compare ourselves to who somebody else is and or what they're doing with their own life, whereby God has given us our individual assignments to carry out in this planet. You know, but what I want to quickly ask you in the sense of comparison is that what are some of the ways you believe people can put in practice that will help us overcome this idea of comparing ourselves to other people?
Yeah, great question. And it's a huge one. And, you know, this is very connected to how we externalize, right? We're so focused on our external environment and what other people are doing, we go to sleep to our internal world. And so we've only got so much energy. We can direct it in any which way. Most of us are directing it to our external environment because that's how we survive, right? And what happens is when we're doing that, say we see in somebody else something that we're comparing ourselves down to, right? This is where maybe jealousy or envy can come out, right? We can go and we just feel deflated within our system and we're not seeing our own inherent value. Absolutely, we need to recognize our uniqueness and how we're not even comparable to other people, right? Like there's just no way. You're such an individual, you know, you've got such uniqueness that nobody else can replicate, and vice versa. But that's easier said. It sounds like a nice, you know, a nice Hallmark card or something, right? Like, or a nice like personal development quote. But at the end of the day, the way I've done it is help people, and I've done this in my own life as well, is help people recognize what is it that you're seeing in that other individual, right, that you are comparing yourself down to. Because whatever we see in another that we admire is actually our unmet potential, right? So it's about rewriting that that perception, right? When we have seen something in somebody else, we've compared ourselves to that, and we now feel deflated in ourselves based on not being as good as that person. It's instead identifying, what is it about that person that I'm comparing myself down to? Oh, there's, you know, they're so engaging, or they're so inspiring, and I just don't have that. That's just not me. It's about, and one of my greatest mentors, Dr. John Demartini, coined the term owning the traits of the greats. So you find who are those people that you most admire, that you compare yourself down to, right? Oh, no, I couldn't be a Tony Robbins or a whoever, you know, like one of those people that people look up to. And it's about identifying what are the top 3 qualities about that person that I most admire, right? It's leaning into what you're thinking you're not good enough for. And it's about owning those qualities within yourself, because we don't whenever there's a charge energetically about like, oh, I'm not good enough, and this person I'm comparing myself down to, it's because you're not living to the important potential that's available to you. You value certain qualities in that person that you must identify and then realize, how do I start working more of these qualities through my own being? Because they're important to me, obviously, right? And that's a much more constructive way than turning that energy against myself and putting myself in a defeatism, place on the couch. Why bother? Because there's so many other better people than me. No, you're just not living to your potential. And if you want to free yourself, you need to lean into the things and identify, what is it about them that I most admire? And how do I own more of those qualities within myself so that I can be inspired by that person rather than deflated by them?
Oh my God.
Mm.
This is absolutely amazing, Vanessa. I really, really appreciate you for this wonderful way of bringing your solution to these issues that most of us face in our private life and business as well. I also want to quickly really ask this question again.
Mhm.
Sometimes in the process of trying to love ourselves, a lot of us deal with a lot of toxin and struggles as well. I want to ask, what are some of the roadblocks and barrier you've seen that people encounter in the process of loving themselves, and how do you think they can be overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question again, because one of the biggest ones I see is, and one of the fears around people changing and loving themselves more, is that the people around them, they impact the relationships, right? So I look at a relationship, it's a system. And, there's a cog in the system. You're a cog, whoever else is in the relationship is another cog in that system. And maybe there's many cogs, right? But
Yeah,
if one cog changes, it changes the whole system, right?
absolutely.
So that can be a benefit, but most of us are driven so highly by certainty that we would rather remain in the same, even unhealthy dynamics or low level kind of connections, rather than be confronted with the possibility of that whole system changing. And so a lot of times when people are up leveling their self-love, they're going through on a personal development journey, right? They're getting to know who they are at a deeper level. They're starting to align with different ways of being in the world. And what happens is that can often be really threatening to the people in their life currently who know them a certain way. And the reason why I bring that one up is because we're such relational creatures. There's no point in living if you can't love and be connected and be known by others and interact and have fun and all of those things. Otherwise, we'd just be living on the mountaintop by ourselves or in some cave somewhere, all separate, right? Like, it's the highest value, right? Love is where it's at. And so the biggest threat to loving thyself is how it may impact our loving relationships with those around us. And so you asked, how would I, help and support that process of mitigating against kind of that challenge? And the truth is, you need to have the courage to go it alone so that you can, you have to have that willingness. Okay, I'm taking a step forward here that I know is truly loving for myself. And therefore, it could ruffle the feathers of other people in relationship with me. Am I willing to make this healthy step and be willing for them to have their experience of it, particularly in the initial stages, and me be okay with maybe having to go it alone for a short period of time until they may come on board once they realize, hey, this is going to benefit me? And I'll use an example from my own life here. When I first discovered personal development, I was on that path of becoming a lawyer, and it was the completely wrong path for me. And when I discovered personal development, my first self-love act from my most authentic place was to realize I needed to get off the wrong path of becoming a lawyer. And I didn't even know what the hell in my life it was going to be that I needed to do. I just knew that is a self-hating path. That is not a loving path for me at all, right? And I knew what was coming. I knew that my dad would call me a failure. My mum would be so disappointed, you know, that she was so proud to have a daughter that was going to be a lawyer. She already had 2 engineer sons, and, you know, she wanted this daughter who was a lawyer, and she was living vicariously through me, right? And all the fears and insecurities coming from this very academic family that I came from, I knew I was going to be hit with it all. That's actually why I couldn't confront it earlier. That's why I deceived myself for a long time. But my first self-loving act, when I got the awareness behind why I was doing what I was doing, right? I took that action. I got all the repercussions that I was so afraid of. My dad telling me I should finish what I started. I'm a complete and utter failure. I've wasted his time and his energy and his money because he was supporting me to get my degree. My mum disowned me. She cut me off completely. She didn't talk to me for months. We laugh about it now because I have the best relationship. They're my biggest supporters now, right? But the truth is, I had to be willing to have everybody in my life judge me, condemn me, throw all of my worst fears at me, but still knowing in my heart and soul that was the right path for me. And I'm grateful, you know, I had my partner, the one person who backed me and supported me on that journey, who I'm forever grateful for. But some of us aren't even lucky enough to have even one person who will back us on that self-love journey. But because I did so, I was actually able to create real loving relationships from me being my authentic self, me being my most empowered self, actually ended up empowering my relationships with those others who initially disowned me, criticized me, judged me for going against the grain, for changing my cog or taking my cog out of the system. And so you have to have the courage to go it alone and have people be threatened by your change and your self-loving acts. And my encouragement would be to just get somebody in your corner to support you on that journey, whether you have somebody in your life currently who will support that change, or if you have a coach, or if you have a great friend, you know, whatever it is, but get that support, because again, it all comes down to loving relationships. And if you're going to build a loving relationship with yourself, sometimes you're going to have to face your biggest fears to do so. And so that's why some external support can be helpful as well. Yeah.
What an incredible advice, Vanessa. Amazing. I also want to quickly talk about, self-forgiveness. Sometimes a lot of us believe probably we've made some mistakes and messed a whole lot of things up some way and somehow. And we end up going into our hidings because we believe we're not going to be accepted. Who we intend to be because of what we've done or because of whatever we've been through.
Yep.
I don't know if you have any advice on how can we come out of that, our self-incrimination based on what we've been through or based on what we have done. We believe like we might not be accepted. So for anyone who have been probably on these paths in life, how do you encourage them to come back to who they really are as a person, regardless of what they've done with their life or whatever they have been through or whatever, regardless of whatever have happened in their life?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, it's connected to the big shadow work journey that I've been on more recently in my life. And it's been an unfolding path, but I've been doing some very deep subconscious work. And basically what that is owning all of the darkness, right? Self-forgiveness is connected to judging ourselves for, having guilt over our actions, or qualities within, seeing qualities within ourselves that we deem as negative, right? So actions that we've taken or not taken, and qualities that we want to disown and, you know, see as bad within ourselves. So in order to become whole and access self-love and truly know your value, you do need to forgive and reconcile the past, and also reconcile and own and integrate the darker aspects of humanity within your own system. Otherwise, you'll never be free, right? So, so basically, again, I want to take it back to the work of Dr. John Demartini, because here's some of the work that I've worked through on this stuff. And basically, it's going to those pivotal moments. So, you know, when I work with a client, the first 12 weeks, we don't do anything but go back through your history and reconcile your past. And so that's pretty confronting work, right? But in order to do so, you're not going to be your most authentic whole self who can create a vision for your future until you've reconciled the past and made way for that future, right? Right. So basically what we need to do is go back and own and see the positives of every negative, right? So say I have a point in my history where I feel really guilty about a decision that I made, a choice that I made, a way that I behaved, right? And I feel bad. I feel like I'm less than because of that action or inaction in my life. Going back to that exact same situation and seeing how, you know, I've got this lopsided perception of all the negatives about it. And what I need to do is see all the benefits of everything playing out in that exact way, right? So, you know, what example could I use? You know, my past self, I'll just use this one because I don't have many regrets in my life, right? But there was always this one piece that I kept coming back to. And it was back at a time where my partner and I had just started a business together, and we were really brand new. You know, we were trying to figure out the whole online world and how we're going to make money. And we kind of did the whole burn the boats and try and figure it out on the fly and live the laptop lifestyle. And you know, it was kind of fun, but it was also scary, like financially. And at the time, we got given an opportunity to work with somebody who I was so excited to work with, and they were a very well-known person. And at the time, you know, the contemplation of how we're going to price things, how we're going to do this, it all kind of came out. And I just kind of handballed the responsibility to my partner because it made me feel uncomfortable, like how much we might charge, right? And I let him choose. And at the time, I felt this kind of like, oh, this like, that doesn't feel good. That feels like we're taking too much, right? It felt it wasn't a fair value exchange, right? And I let it go anyway. And we ended up missing out on working with that. It was a couple that I was so had my heart set on working, and I would have absolutely done it for free because it was so meaningful to me. But there's this point that I was like, oh, like I kept having to go back to that place because I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt like a taker. I had all these judgments, and I felt like it cost me this opportunity, and I blamed my partner as well. And there was all this negativity kind of connected to it. And what I had to do in order to forgive myself, to forgive him, to rectify that and not let it drain my energy or come into my current environment about like how I charge people and clients and, you know, and or how I see myself and how it may impact my worth or value of myself in order to love myself and all those sorts of things. I actually had to go back to that exact situation, and I had to see how it benefited us. I had to see how it benefited me. I had to see how it benefited the clients. I had to see how it benefited my partner. And what I realized when I realized it was completely in balance of both positives and negatives, you know, I actually saw that actually allowed that couple who were really challenged in their relationship, they thought they were going to have a divorce. they actually took higher responsibility for their own relationship, and they came together as a team, even in the decision whether or not to work with us. And that allowed them to put a higher value on solving their relationship problems together and resolve it, right? It actually helped me to realize I shouldn't be handballing the responsibility of my life and my choices. I knew that didn't feel right, but I didn't take a stand. I didn't speak up. I wasn't an equal team member here. So that alerted me, gave me an opportunity and an experience as to what I don't want and what I would like instead, and it also gave my partner, the benefit of being the leader in that situation and maybe learning from his mistakes as well, but there was all these benefits that I had to balance out, and now I'm free from it. But the truth is we all have these situations in our lives that we are looking at so negatively, and they're costing us. I like to think of them as anchors holding us back, like digging our heels in with concrete, keeping us away from the freedom and fulfillment of living our potential, because we haven't gone back, resolved the past to make way for our freeing future. So we've all got those situations. Yeah.
Wow. Honestly, Vanessa, you're so incredible. Absolutely speaking. I don't really actually intend to take so much of your time. Honestly, you've been really, really incredible. But before I let you go, I really want to quickly touch these two questions I have here.
Yep.
How does self-love help to improve our mental health?
So much, because we can look at our self-love as any sort of act that is empowering for you as an individual, right? In any of the key areas, in your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual health. And so how you choose to treat yourself determines for you how you see yourself, how you experience yourself. And so you're the first point of call for how you experience yourself and see yourself. So that treatment, remember we said self-love is an act, it's a verb, it's a doing, right? So how we treat ourselves reflects to ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically and spiritually, our sense of value in this world. So so that's what I'd say about that. That's the tie, I would say.
Wow, this is really incredible. I really, really appreciate you, Vanessa. And I don't know, I believe I can't really ask you every question that I wrote down yet to really to ask because of time, But I just want you to kind of sum it up for anyone that is listening to us at this very moment, and to most people that will come across this conversation maybe later in their days or however it is. I believe you have one or two things to share regarding this very conversation without me asking you. So what are some of these words that you would like to leave behind for anybody who is struggling with loving themselves, or seeking for people approval to be themselves, or looking for someone to motivate them to get into their authenticity, to get that awakening? And what are some of these little advice you have for anyone dealing with these struggles?
Yeah, great question. And it's a big one, but at the end of the day, whatever we're seeking from our external world is our answer to the work that we need to do in our internal world. So I'll use a very quick example because I know we have gone on and, I can talk all day. But, some of the things that made me dependent on others in my external world was that I wasn't esteeming myself, right? I wasn't valuing myself. I was doubting myself and I was criticizing myself. So what I was doing was I was seeking in my external world, hey, please esteem me, please value me, please believe me, and please encourage me and, say great things about me. And what happens is it creates this dependency in our external world. So so it's very disempowering to depend on any other imperfect individual out there to fulfill on our needs. So it's about identifying what is it that I'm really seeking in my external world, and then turning it back on to ourselves. So my path became, how do I do the work to own my own inherent value? How do I do the work to believe in myself? And how do I do the work to encourage myself, right? Rather than have low self-esteem, have self-doubt, and have self-criticism, right? So that I can turn to my own self and basically reparent myself, right? That's what we're all doing. We're doing for ourselves what we didn't have from our parents, because they're imperfect individuals doing the best they can as well, right? And so what I would say is recognize your own patterns of seeking in the external and take and highlight those. And, you know, get a coach, get somebody external from you who can help you to identify with clarity, you know, what your cycle is, what your limited self cycle is, so that you can now have the framework to take responsibility and do that work for yourself, which is the most self-loving act you can ever do, is take responsibility for your own fulfillment and stop depending on the external world. So get some support with that if you're not able to come up with that clearly for yourself, which most of us aren't, because we're, you know, like Les Brown would say, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, right? So, you know, like get some other eyes on it for you. And to start doing the work to meet your own needs so you can be the empowered person that you are. It's going to take some deep inner personal work, but you're worth it. Each one of us is worth it. And if there's no short circuiting that, right? There's no handballing of the responsibility for your most freed self, who can live to their potential, who can love themselves wholeheartedly and give their unique gifts to the world and feel a sense of value from their core, you know. So identify your limited self cycle and start to clarify what your limitless self path is. And that just takes some support, but it's also ownership, and that's your pathway towards empowerment and freedom.
Wow, honestly, I'm kind of Spanish.
I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Honestly, this is one of my best birthday gifts ever. I really appreciate your presence of being here, and I believe a lot of people have got a ton of blessing out of this conversation. You know, so for most people who would like to get connected with you, probably get your product or learn from you, you know, I don't know if you can easily quickly like let us know how they can easily get in touch with you.
Yeah, I think because we're doing a Facebook Live, that might be the easiest place. Just grab me on Facebook and I'm connected on your page, and I think to some of the posts there, or you can look up Vanessa Jane Patrick. You can follow the Limitless Potential page. So I'll be doing some more things. I've been in a bit of behind the scenes working with clients and running some retreats more recently, but I'll be, you know, Eddy's given me this great opportunity to get back out there a little bit more after my very introspective year. So you'll see more of me on Facebook and all of the platforms as well there.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really cherish this moment. I really appreciate it. And I want to say, God bless you for this beautiful opportunity for us to have this conversation together. Like I said, I believe someone is definitely going to get blessed through this conversation. For me, that is what I believe in. You know, I don't believe I can change the world, but I believe I can change somebody. You know, I really want to appreciate you for this beautiful moment. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on the impacts this beautiful money. And I believe we all got blessed from this wonderful conversation with Vanessa J. Patrick. And I'm going to be looking forward to see us again on my next episode. And I believe also, if you have anybody you think I can bring on this program, or you have any topic you would like me to talk about, kindly just reach out to me. And I will definitely see what I can do about that. Thank you so much for joining us again on this conversation. And I wish each and every one of us a beautiful day, and God bless you for being here with us. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really, really appreciate your this, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you have a wonderful day, Vanessa.
You too, and happy birthday to you. Have the best Monday and your birthday, and thank you for the incredible questions that you ask, and thank you for just bringing your heart to all you do. It's really felt and so appreciated.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. God bless you and have a wonderful time.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye for now.
Bye.